everybody. Welcome to Defying the Odds. Defying the Odds is powered by No More Heroin 501c3. I'm the CEO. This episode is sponsored by Grace Recovery and Wellness in Anderson, Indiana. They've graciously given me a place to build a studio and do this podcasting. So they are the sponsors of this show. If you're catching us live, the live button is right here. If that live button is not there, you're catching a replay, drop a hashtag replay. If you're catching us live, drop a hashtag live. Please let us know where you're watching from. I'd like to introduce you guys to a dear friend of mine. His name is Cody Bowen from Malta, Ohio, and he's got an amazing testimony. And we've been friends for a really long time. So some of the things that he's going to share with you, I've witnessed or I've known about, but I want him to share his story with you guys because it's such a powerful story of overcoming. It's truly an example of what this platform is about. He is truly defying the odds and living a life of purpose and destiny. So welcome to the show, Cody.
Hey, Higgy. What's up, man?
Hey, before we get started, I'd like for you to pray us in, please.
Yes. Heavenly Father, we come to you this evening with humble hearts, God. We just want to thank you for your grace, for your mercy, and your redeeming power that you instill in your people, Father God. I want to pray a special anointing right now over this fellowship between Higgy and I, over this podcast, and anyone that may be tuning in, that may be listening, that may hear this, Lord. I just pray that you give us the words to speak that will impact and spark a change in your children, God. May we all be transformed by the renewing of our minds, and may we be pressed in and sold out to who you are and what you've called us to do. It's in Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, bro. Thank you for that.
You're welcome, bro.
I don't see any comments on my platform up here. So if you guys are, I'm going to check my phone. If you guys are dropping comments, I'll respond as I'm able. If you would, please take the time to share this out because you guys don't want to miss the story, the testimony that Cody Bowen has to share with us. So you've had a busy day today. You were with a mutual friend of ours. You want to share that with everybody and tell them what they can look forward to?
A good, dear mutual friend of ours, Dre Stewart, he reached out and asked me if I would come over and do a podcast with him this morning. And Lord, forgive me, and I'm having a brain fart of what his is called. But he's going to be editing that, and he's going to stream it to his YouTube platform that he has under Dre Day Ministries. So that's going to be going out here soon. And what's really crazy is, earlier this year, a few weeks ago, I had given a message that was entitled "There's More in Store in 2024," and I was talking about how God's wanting people to network and to work together and for his body to become functioning, moving parts. And it literally wasn't long after I gave that message that you had reached out and asked for me to come on here with you, and then immediately after that, Dre reached out and asked me to go and meet with him. And I strongly believe that we are better together, man. And this is going to be the year where friendships are developed, and that there's going to be networking is going to be huge for all of us to spread this message of hope to people that are desperate to hear it.
So Dre has such a powerful testimonial by himself, and he does multiple things. He's into photography. He's a great videographer.
Yes.
If you guys know Dre, or if you haven't, please look him up, give him a follow. You'll love his content. It's spiritually based, and it all comes from the heart. And he's so good at presenting that. So if you would just jump over there, Cody, I just want to jump into this. If you would all start.
Okay, so I was born May 31st, 1985 in Washington Courthouse, Ohio, Fayette County. But my childhood growing up, I mean, it was very inconsistent. I was bounced around from home to home a lot. I have experienced many different forms of abuse, physical, emotional, and sexual abuse throughout my childhood. And in saying that, I want to say, my parents did the best that they could for me in that moment. And this is not a fire shots at them, or they should have done better, or they should have known better. These are just facts and circumstances surrounding my upbringing and some of the things that played a part in my addiction. So the sexual molestation, it happened to me from about the ages of 9 to 11. And it took it played a major part in my brokenness. I felt like for a long time there was a part of me that was stolen or robbed or taken from me by an individual that was supposed to be a member of my family, that was meant to love and respect me. And I remember these acts of sexual abuse taking place, and attempting to call my mother. But when she would get on the phone, I couldn't find the words to articulate what had happened to me or what had went on, because I was so, number one, I was so afraid of what the repercussions would be for me informing people that this individual was doing it to me. And two, there was this overwhelming sense of guilt and shame that took over me too, that wouldn't allow me to communicate these things that were going on to me. So with that happening to me, I spent a majority late adolescence, early teen years rebelling and trying to find my identity. But what I used to find my identity was substances. I can remember my 11th birthday. I had became extremely intoxicated with my sister. So I began drinking at 11. By 12 or 13, I'm smoking marijuana. And in the world wants to tell you that what makes you a man is how many women you can sleep with and how hard you can punch somebody. So I got into weightlifting and working out, and I'm already a big gentleman by nature. There must have been Miracle Grow in the nursery or something. I don't know what was going on, but so I spent a large portion of my life just rebelling against authority. I had these walls up around me where I wouldn't let people close to me because, I was hurt deeply by people that were placed in my life to love and respect me. So I spend all of this time, all of these years, I'm drinking, I'm smoking weed. We may be different individuals, but there's a lot of similarities in our stories. So my story is not that much different than anybody else's. We get to this point where we're using so many substances, we ultimately have to begin selling them so that we have something to feed our own personal supply on. I moved out at 16 from my mother's house. By the grace of God, I graduated high school, but I was just not running with good people. Not that they were bad people. I wasn't running with socially acceptable people. I'll say it like that.
Relatable.
I had multiple arrests. I just basically lied, used, and manipulated everybody that came into contact with me. And it's very hard for me when I'm sharing my testimony, or I'm explaining the things that I have been through or I've experienced, and people will ask me, what was your drug of choice? Mine was more. That's it. It didn't matter. Cocaine, crack cocaine, methamphetamines, ecstasy, prescription pills, acid, LSD. It didn't matter. Anything that allowed me to escape me, I'm ingesting as much as possible of it.
Absolutely.
I was afraid. I was afraid to look me in my eyes and to see who I really was. So anything that could cloud that or take that away from me, I was eager and quick to ingest and try to escape reality and numb the pain that was deep within me from things that I experienced growing up. I'm selling. I end up meeting this young lady, and she was showing me an apartment one day. And she said, "Is there anything else you need?" And I said, "Absolutely." your phone number. And she gave me her phone number. And to make a long story short, we ended up becoming married. We had my twin daughters, Kennedy and Reagan, together. And it's crazy to think back now, but one of the things that I loved about this young lady is, she just wanted to chill at home. Like, she wasn't trying to go out and run around and do this and be here and be there. And I remember one day sitting out on her back porch talking to her mom. And I was like, I think I'm going to ask and see if she'd like to go to a movie tonight. And she just laughed. And I was like, what? She said, Cody, she's on house arrest. So this woman that had caught felony charges, and the reason she wanted to be at home was because she wasn't allowed legally to leave the house. But our relationship quickly became toxic. Two toxic people just equals even more toxic situations. So we separate, and I spend, when she first said she was pregnant with Kennedy and Reagan, I can remember thinking to myself, I've got to get clean. That's one of the first times that I can actually recall thinking to myself, I need to change the way I'm living. I need to stop engaging in these behaviors. I need to stop doing what I'm doing. I'm going to be a father. And that lasted until it didn't, so I go right back to it. Man. So
at what age was this?
Let's see. The girls are 12. I'm 30 something.
30 something?
20. I was 25 at this point in time. And I can also remember, like I always said, that I would never have kids. That's why I was 25 before the girls were born. But so their mother and I separate. We stay married, but we separate. And I'm still deep in my addiction, and I'm just lying and manipulating every person that comes into my path. Multiple overdoses. I meet another young lady. We have a child together, and I ended up getting custody of Kennedy and Reagan while I was with this other woman. And I ran her through the mud. I was talking to Dre about her today, and her and I also have a daughter together, and I haven't been able to see that daughter or be involved in her life in over 5 years, man.
Wow.
And it's still something that hurts. It's heavy, but it's a situation and a circumstance that I've had to surrender to God, like for my overall well-being. When your greatest character defect is to participate in conflict, which is mine all day. Yes. All day long. An argument cannot even involve me, but there's something in me that wants to jump right in the middle of it. So I've had to surrender that aspect to Christ. But anyway, so I'm with this other woman. I'm running her through the mud. I'm ruining her life. Things became really toxic between her and I. And my last overdose was August 25th of 2017. I remember after I come to, it took 4 doses of Narcan to bring me back. And I remember after I come to, they were pushing me in the ambulance, and the officer said, Bowen, what'd you take? And I said, Tylenol, extra strength. Because we're comedians, we've got to say.
Oh, we're glitching. Sorry.
But so I'm in this ambulance, and I get to the hospital, and I'm just full of guilt and shame, man. And I called a dear friend of mine. I had custody of Kennedy and Reagan at this time. And I called a friend of mine, and I said, you've got to get to the bus stop and pick these girls up. And she comes back to the hospital, and she tells me, they were there waiting, Cody. And I said, well, who the hell's they? And she said, Children's Services was at the bus stop waiting to take your daughters. They're in protected custody right now.
Wow.
And I knew that they were literally the only thing that kept the one thread together that was still standing, And I attempted to leave the hospital. I got up from the bed, and the doctor was telling me to lay back down. I'm not I not so kindly told him where he could go and what he could do with himself. And right behind him was a nurse that's probably 4'11", 5 foot tall. Her name was Barbie. And she told me that I was loved, that I was cared for, and that if I sat down, she would get me some help.
That piece of compassion that was so needed in that moment.
Yeah. She made me feel like I wasn't alone. She made me feel like there was actually hope for me. So I sat down, and I'm still to this day, I don't know. It's probably that was one of the first times in a long time I felt loved and valued and appreciated. And so I sat down, and I went to treatment that night. Like, I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know how long the program was. I didn't know anything. The only thing that I knew is that I was told that I could get help, and someone was in my path to help me. And I think it's that level of desperation that we all need to have, and working in recovery now, sometimes it's frustrating when somebody's like, I need help, I'm ready to go. And then I'm like, okay, I know a program you can go to. Well, how long is it? Can I smoke?
Set stipulations, right?
Can I smoke? Is it co-ed? Am I allowed to take my Xbox? How long am I on blackout? And it frustrates me sometimes, because why is it that when we're broken and we're desperate and we say we need help, do we want to put our own stipulations on it? Why do we want to control what that aspect looks like? If I couldn't control my life or my addiction, what makes us think that it is wise for us to try and control and dictate our recovery in any facet, in any way? So I take off and I go to treatment, and I go to an 18-month long program. Okay. They taught us how to identify our feelings, how to identify our emotions, how to identify dysfunctional thought patterns, how to work the steps, the importance of a fellowship, the importance of sponsorship. So I'm plugged in and I'm going hard. I'm doing good. But one of the stipulations of the program is that you are not allowed to drink coffee. And I'm not even sure I've shared this with anybody else other than the men in our group room. You're not allowed to have coffee. You're allowed to smoke a pack of cigarettes a day, but you were not allowed to have coffee. So I'm doing everything, and I get trusted. I get some extra privileges. Okay. And my counselor, I love her to death, still love her. I don't think she's too fond of me still to this day, but I love her, and I'm very grateful for everything she taught me. She gave me these keys to this room where we would volunteer down on Sullivan and Souders. And one day I go in this room and I'm looking for stuff she asked me for, and I look over, and on this cabinet, on this ledge, there's cans of coffee. And we always had to have these backpacks because she was adamant about us writing everything. She used to say the warrior's greatest weapon is his pen. So I'm looking at the coffee. I take my backpack off and I start loading my backpack up with coffee.
No.
Yeah. So we lived in a house, and the person that was in charge of our home was the worship leader. So on Sunday mornings, he had to leave early to go to the church. So what I would do is, after he left, is I would go out in the garage. I would take old T-shirts and rip them up into pieces to make filters. I'd boil hot water on the stove, and I would pour my coffee in these T-shirts.
Just like you're camping.
Yeah, man.
Now, doing that, was that because you wanted the coffee, or was it an act of rebellion?
I wanted the coffee.
Okay.
And I think also, if I'm being for real, there was a part of my, like, I'm getting away with this.
Yes.
Know?
That character defect, right?
I'm getting away with this. No one's going to know. And how our addict minds work is like, it's coffee, dude. I'm making coffee, you know? So I'm making coffee, and at first, like, I don't tell anybody I'm doing it. Well, this goes on for a few weeks, and then the other men that live in our home find out that it's happening. So I'm telling them, like, I'll give you some. Don't tell on me. I'll give you some. So then they tell other people at the other end. Now I'm selling coffee in a treatment center, dude.
Getting your hustle on.
I'm telling you. Well, one of the guys, our houses were set up in phases. Like, you were in this house for so long, then you went to this house, then you went to another house. Well, one of the guys that was went to the next house, and he told on me. And my counselor, it was March 18th, 2018. So I had visits once a week with my daughters at a visitation center at this point in time. And she said, I'll never take you to see your kids again. And I'm like, okay, I'm leaving. I'm done. This is about 8 months of an 18-month program. So we have a heated conversation, and I'll never forget it. I remember looking at her as I was getting ready to take off down the street, because my pride was definitely blowing up at this point. I refused to ride to the bus station. I'm just going to start walking in the middle of Westerville. Don't know anybody. But I look at her and I said, I can't believe it came to this over coffee. And she said, Mr. Bowen, it has nothing to do with the coffee, and I hope you realize that someday. And it has taken me years to know that it had nothing to do with the coffee. It was the fact that I was engaging in highly addictive behaviors. I was manipulating. I was being deceptive. I was being self-centered. I was only worried about myself. All of these dangerous I was engaging in while in a safe environment. So I end up leaving treatment, and I wish that I could say that that's when things definitely improved. However, it's not. It's not. I was still very sick. I was still had a lot of things that I needed to address and look at and take on. And I did not do that. I remember I was engaging in sexual activities for a vehicle when I first came home from treatment. I was still a liar. I still did not know how to discipline my children. I didn't know how to be a father. There were a lot of things that I was lacking. And I remember one day I was in Chillicothe working on a roof, and I got this phone call, and I answered the phone, and it was this woman was on the other line freaking out, going crazy. And she had told me that the girl's mom died of a drug overdose.
Wow.
And I didn't believe it. I was freaking out. I was mad. I was upset. I climbed down off the roof. The guy I was working for was like, you going home, you go handle what you need to handle, go take care of what you need to take care of. So I had to tell my then 7-year-old daughters, 6 years old, almost 7 years old, that their mom had died of a drug overdose. And their mother and I were still married at the time. We had not been together in years, but we were still married. So I became financially responsible for the funeral. And I wanted to give Kennedy and Reagan the opportunity to say goodbye to their mother. Even if they didn't fully grasp what was going on in that moment, I wanted them to be able to say that their dad did give them that opportunity. Like, I wanted them to be able to say that even if they didn't know that's what they were doing in the moment, closure from it.
Such an honorable thing to even contemplate doing. given your state of mind and the behaviors you were exhibiting at that time. And also this is around the same time period that you and I were introduced to each other.
Yes. Yes.
Tim Ryan sent me a message and said there's a young man in Ohio that just lost his wife.
Mm-hmm.
He's now a single father and he could really use your help. So I reached out to you, and we've been friends ever since.
Yeah.
So thank you, Tim Ryan.
No doubt, right? This is where Tim Ryan comes into the story. Now, and I remember we went to the funeral home, my mother and I did that day, and we met with Jamie's sister-in-law and some of their family, and we were getting prices from the funeral home, letting us know how much it would cost to have a service and all of these types of details. So we get the price together, and we went to this place to eat lunch, and I made it, something inside of me was like, make a Facebook Live, like go live on Facebook and allow people to know what the situation is that you are in and see if anybody has any resources and means of helping you. So I make this Facebook Live sitting in the parking lot giving details, and I give the phone number to the funeral home and everything so that people could call directly. And I was hoping that within a couple weeks that it would be paid and we could move forward from this. So I finished the Facebook Live and I walk into the restaurant. My mom and I order, and I sit down and this number calls my phone. Never seen it before in my life. And I answer it and I'm like, hello. And this guy's like, did you have children with this woman? And I'm like, this. And he was like, oh, it's Tim Ryan. I'm like, who's Tim Ryan? He's like, I own a nonprofit. I help people that are in recovery. Someone tagged me in your video. How much is the funeral? I give him the price, and he's like, consider it paid in full. And he hangs up.
He does that.
He hangs up on me, and I'm like, my mom's like, who's that? And I'm like, Tim Ryan. Like, I didn't think it was real. I'm like, I look him up. I'm reading about him. I'm sitting there. And then maybe my mom and I hadn't even finished our food, and the funeral home calls me. And they're like, hey, not only has this been paid in full, but there's extra money here. Like, what do we do with it? And I said, order some flowers, do something. So Tim's act of kindness when I was in a very dark place, man, like
very vulnerable.
So much was going on at one time, man. So much was going on and happening to me, and there were so many damaging aspects of my life, and it was just, life was heavy. I was getting my girls back, and I was trying to do life on life's terms, and I hadn't really became super involved in a fellowship or anything of that nature. And that act of kindness sparked something within me in that moment. And the people that I've gotten to meet, like the closeness of you and I and our friendship and where we are. And it was nice for someone, again, when I was in a vulnerable state, to let me know that I'm not alone and I don't have to figure this all out on my own. That there are people out there that are willing to give the shirt off their back to help the next man.
Absolutely. It's what we do for each other, right?
Yeah. Yes. So Tim does that. And then moving forward, and then I meet another female. There's a pattern. If you're not catching on,
there is a pattern.
I meet another female, and I'm still not in a place where I'm able to be completely honest about who I am and what's going on in my life. And we rushed the relationship. We were married after 90 days. I did get a beautiful daughter out of that situationship, because it wasn't really a relationship. It was a situation that neither one of us should have been in. And that marriage ended horribly. Again, I wasn't completely sold out to working on myself. And there were some things that happened Both parties are guilty of things. There were some things that had happened and had taken place, and I had tried to kill somebody.
I remember.
I went to somebody. I signed over temporary custody of my kids. I went to an individual's house with a loaded 9mm. By the grace of God, they did not come outside. 3 county sheriffs and 3 city police come to my house, and thankfully, I had somewhat of a good reputation in that town, and they all told me, this isn't you. Like, this isn't how Cody Bowen conducts himself. You need to figure this out. If we get called again, you're going to jail. Not only are you going to jail, but you're probably going to go to prison. So figure it out. So I'm sitting in my house, and
That was a divine intervention.
Man, 100%, 100%. And so I'm sitting in my house and I'm thinking, where can I go? Where can I go far away just to get my mind right and get recentered and refocused on the things that I need to work on and be serious this time? No playing around. So I had a number in my phone for Dave Atkins. He's the director of operations at New Hope Creation in Malta. I called him. I explained briefly the situation and what I was facing and what was going on. And he said, head this way immediately. I'm the first client to ever come into this program passing a urine screen without needing detox. I actually did not meet their level of care to come in here and receive services. So my insurance was not billed. I was here free of charge. I have originally asked if I could just be here for 30 days, and I have yet to leave.
How much sobriety did you have at that time?
I celebrated 4 years clean in their group room.
That's so cool.
4 years clean.
But you were you're emotionally broken, and you needed a safe environment, and they provided that for you.
Yeah. There were still certain aspects of me and who I was and how I was living that I refused to accept. I refused to acknowledge them because I was so desperate to not be that person anymore. But no matter how I tried to cover it up, and I'm not saying, in my addiction, I tried to cover it up with substances. With alcohol, with anything that I could find. But what I did for a long time in my recovery is I tried to cover that up with people. I tried to, also I would try to stay so busy running around and doing this and doing that I didn't have time to focus on me.
I get that so well, I do.
If
I focus on other people, I don't have to focus on this and try to fix this brokenness inside of me. And that works temporarily until it doesn't anymore.
The real us is going to come up. It doesn't matter what we try to do to mask that or hide that or cover or to not allow people to see that. Ultimately, sooner or later, the real us is going to show up. So
the unhealed version.
100%. And what's crazy is I'll hear people sometimes say, I'm afraid to do good because I self-sabotage. Bro, I'm afraid to do good because I don't self-sabotage. I ruin everybody around me.
Absolutely.
I don't just mess things up for me. I'm messing things up for anybody that's in my immediate circle of influence.
Absolutely. Just like your drug addiction, right?
100%. Because the drugs are just a side effect. We hear it so often. It becomes
the symptom of.
It becomes so cliche. My real issue was me. My real issue is me.
Still, yes.
Still to this day. That's me and Dre were talking today, and he said, What's the one thing that holds you back?
Me.
Me. I am my own worst enemy. In the NA basic text, it says there's something in our self-destructive nature that cries out for failure. There is something deep within us that just wants us to fail miserably.
I've heard it put, we are wired to unwire.
Yeah, 100%.
So how are you combating that today?
Today, what I have to do is I have put this standard or this expectation on me. I have done it. I tell the men in our group room, every time I step in there, I try to mention it at least one time. The issue with us is not that we have set the bar too high and we make it too low and we hit it. We settle for less. So what I have to do is I have made this standard of who I am as an individual, who I am as a husband, who I am as a father, who I am as a counselor, who I am as just an overround individual. And I try to every day move that standard up a little bit more. Wake up, move it up just a little bit more. And when I make a mistake, I no longer justify it. I no longer rationalize it. If someone comes to me and tells me that they think, believe, or feel that I am doing something wrong or have said something wrong, I put stock in it. Sometimes with some people, it's only a little bit of stock. But everything that comes to me now, I analyze. Did I say that? Did I do that? Are my motives this way? So what I've had to do now is I have to allow myself in the Bible, 1 Chronicles 7:14, it says, if my people who were called by my name would humble themselves, seek my face, then I will hear their prayers. Then I will heal their land. We have to keep ourselves in this constant state of not of humiliation, but in humbleness.
Humbleness, big difference.
100%. We have to allow ourselves to keep this heart posture of admitting I don't have it figured out. And it's okay if I'm wrong. I don't have to be right. And I think that something that's helped me and been beneficial for me, my wife hates hearing this saying, but it means something to me. And that is, my joy is my job.
That's right.
It's not, if I act outside of who I'm called to be, that is my fault. I can't blame me acting angry and saying hurtful things on another human being. I can't do that. No matter how you come at me, no matter how you approach me, I have to remain humble and authentic with what's going on within me. Mm-hmm. I can no longer be this victim circumstance. Well, if they would talk to me this way, if they would treat me better, if they would do that. No, I'm responsible for me. No matter
you're in a constant state of self-analysis, right?
Yes.
Trying to be better, trying to improve your relationships, trying to improve your contact with God and your relationship with your community overall, family, friends, loved ones.
And I'm learning finally, because my skull is so thick, that the less that I have my hands in stuff, the better off that it is.
I get that. I do. It really strikes a chord with me for sure. I've learned that lesson myself.
And I did when I came here. I'm really fortunate with the counselor I got when I came to New Hope. One of the first things she had me, we talked for a little bit, and she said, "You're codependent. You're codependent."
Codependent.
Yes. Not only are you dependent upon yourself and your will and your wants and your desires and how you think it should look like, but
I'm sorry for the glitching, folks.
You there?
I don't know what's going on.
You there?
Yep, I'm here.
Can't hear you.
Yeah, I'm here.
Uh-oh.
Can everybody hear Cody? Okay, I can hear you.
I can't hear you.
1 second. Can you hear me now?
Nope.
Dang it. I don't know what's going on. Well, Facebook is glitching tonight. Tyler Pack's in the house. What's up, Tyler? Let me see. I don't know what's going on.
Gotcha.
Gotcha. Here we
Sorry,
are.
my wife was calling. I don't know what's going on.
So let's transition into the blessings of your recovery today.
Yes, so my counselor was talking about this codependency that I had and things that I needed to work on and adjust and to take on head on. So that's exactly what I did. And there came a point in time, and I remember telling Miss Patty, my pastor's wife, if it is just Jesus and my daughters for the rest of my life, I'm happy. And I remember, praying for a helpmate. Like, being a single dad to two twin daughters is not an easy task. Like, it's a blessing though, because it has taught me, or I have learned how to articulate my feelings and how to have these conversations that not all men get to have. And it's a beautiful thing. But I remember I read the scripture that says, he that finds a wife has obtained a good thing and favor from the Lord. And I thought, it doesn't say he who finds a girlfriend and then makes her a fiance and then makes her a wife has found a good thing. It says he that finds a wife. So it made me think that before I can find someone or love somebody, I first have to be the husband that Christ has called me to be. Husbands, us as men, husbands don't just become a husband once they're married. We have to operate and function as a husband before we're ever able to handle a bride.
Right.
Just as a woman has to conduct herself and be a wife before she ever becomes a wife. And this, I tried to facet that also into other aspects and areas of my life. I had to operate and function as a counselor before I ever got the CDCA. I've had to operate and function as a pastor before I'll ever walk into that calling. I have to operate and function as a good father in order for me to step into that.
Exhibiting all those qualities.
100%. I made a Facebook post the other day. I take my stepson Zane to preschool every morning, and we have some beautiful conversations. He's 5, and I'm telling you what, it's the highlight of my morning. But we were talking about, he had mentioned like legacy. We were talking about legacy and what we leave behind and how people benefit from. 5 years old, dude.
5 years old. Yeah.
So I drop him off and I'm heading to work, and I think like, we spend a lot of our energy and our time on building a legacy when we first have to focus a lot of our time and energy on building our character. You can't build something beautiful with a heart that's ugly. You can't do that. So we have to look at ourselves and take our own inventory and adjust things. So I spend this time of my life, just my daughters and I. And a young lady from Washington Courthouse that I knew that's in recovery started reaching out and just talking to me like as a friend. Conversations would be like, hey, how are you? It wasn't excessive. It wasn't nonstop. If she didn't hear from me for a day or two, it wasn't like, what do you got going on? You know how all that crap.
Right. Possessiveness.
Yeah. So it started off, she slowly and subtly became my best friend. I could call her about things I was facing or experiencing with the girls. I could be honest and transparent about what was going on with me, and she wouldn't judge me. She wouldn't criticize me. She wouldn't condemn me. She was able to and help me work through it. And long story short, she is now my wife. And
hi, Jackie.
It is honestly the greatest blessing that I have ever gotten in my life. I mean, I've never had someone that I could be myself and say exactly what I thought, say exactly what I felt. Someone that would see me, and when I'm beating myself up for doing something, tell me, you're just too hard on yourself, babe. Like, it's going to be all right. And because a lot of my relationships in the past, when I would do something wrong, I was a monster. I was a horrible person. I can't believe you did this. I can't believe you did that.
Do you think that's from not placing, expectations on the relationship from the beginning?
Absolutely. I 100% believe, I 100% believe that we have to first allow ourselves to become friends with the individual in order for it to be anything that's lasting or sustaining or good. I think that we get so desperate that, we pray, God, send me a wife. God, send me a woman, that we forget to pray, God, make me a husband. God, turn me into the man that you need me to be so that I could be beneficial in someone else's life. And I think I know that when it comes to my wife and I's marriage, that it has been absolutely crucial and pivotal that we were best friends before we were ever anything else. And I think too that she's got just over 5 years clean. And that's something that I get to share with her. And that's the first time that I've ever been in a relationship where someone was supportive of me going to meetings. Someone was supportive of me going out and helping people. It's not easy being married to me, and by no means. And she's perfectly fine with if a phone call happens and I'm needed at the center, if someone reaches out and needs a ride or wants to go somewhere.
It's a sign she's secure in your relationship.
100%. 100%. You know, I have said on stage in front of people, I don't need you. I don't need you, Jackie. I want you, but I don't need you. If she woke up and looked me in my eyes and said, I'm done doing this, I'm leaving, it would hurt me. It would hurt me briefly to get over it, because both of us, just as you had said, are so secure in the relationship that we're not codependent, we're interdependent. We both have goals and a mission and a vision of our life and our family, and we work together moving towards that. And it's the greatest blessing I've ever gotten. The greatest blessing I've ever gotten. I get to help raise, she's got a 16-year-old daughter. And that is an interesting dynamic.
You have quite an amazing blended family.
Yeah.
The Bowen bunch.
The Bowen bunch, baby. But it's so wonderful. Like, we sit down and we eat dinner together, and I love every single one of those kids like they're my own. And I make sure that I let them know I love you like I am your dad, but I am not trying. I want to be a positive male figure in your life, and I want to be there with you, and I want to celebrate areas of growth, and I want us to work together to make this house a home and to make everybody's hearts complete. And I'm having a son. What
Ooh, tell us about that.
We found out about a week and a half ago.
Congratulations to you and Jackie.
Thank you, bro.
Truly a blessing. It's like a miracle.
It's definitely a miracle, man. Definitely. I cried for a good day and a half, man.
That's so awesome. Congratulations. I'm so happy for you guys.
Well, thank you very much. So, and we're homeowners. Like, bro, my credit score, I couldn't get a Slim Jim on a front. And we own a home. Like, just the blessings that we're walking into and the things that are happening. We're a praying family. We do our very absolute best to keep God first and at the center of everything that we do. The life that I have now is literally a life that I've prayed about and hoped about since I first got clean and sober. And I sometimes people will tell me that I come off as too strong or too passionate, but I just wish people would realize, like, we miss out on so and trying to rush aspects and areas of our lives. And I just want people to be completely transparent and vulnerable and open. And, you know, we don't have to be all put together. We don't have to have all the answers. We don't have to be these picture perfect individuals. It's okay for us to be broken and have areas that need work and need addressed and fixed and fine tuned. Like, I wish I would have done this years ago. Years ago, man.
Everything happens in God's time.
I know that's right. I wish I would have participated in this years ago.
For sure. You know, but when the opportunity presented itself, you were in a place to accept it
Mm-hmm.
and to make the most of it. So all the things you've been through in your past put you in a position to be right here, right now, experiencing all the joy in your life. You know, building the relationships you're building. You know, building a amazing, loving, God-fearing family with an amazing woman. You have a career, you have a home, you have cars. You are living the American dream.
Yeah. And I just had to wake up from the American nightmare first.
I know that's right. And you're broadcasting from your own office.
Yeah.
Where you work. So tell for anybody out there who's looking at this hoodie like I am, and I want one. I love it. What does that represent?
Hope Recovered. So about a year and a half ago, there was a couple of us individuals that were sitting on a couch, and we were talking about ways that we could impact this community in a positive manner and allow people to get hope. So we decided that on Friday nights at 7 p.m. we would meet, and it has grown now from 3 of us sitting on a couch to we have anywhere from 40 to 75 people every Friday night that come
in rural Ohio
and in Malta, you know.
Yes.
In Malta.
These small communities like yours need this. They need to be exposed to recovery. They need to be exposed to other people that are striving for a life in recovery.
Yeah. And see, for a while, there was this stigma placed on this building and the individuals inside of this building because people just didn't know. You know, it's communities will say, you know, we want people to get help, just not in our backyard. We don't want that in our backyard. So what Hope Recovered has been able to do is to show other members of this community that we are sober. Like, we are doing what's right. We have jobs and stuff. Like, we adult and we have hearts and we care.
We're adulting today.
We're adulting and stuff. Like, you don't have to clench your purse when one of us guys with tattoos walks by you. Like, we are set free, you know? And I remember not too long ago, I was sitting out on a couch here at the center, and someone had called me Pastor Cody.
How did that feel?
I didn't like it. I didn't like it one bit. I started sobbing, and Pastor Jamie, my shepherd, he came up and was like, "What's wrong, Cody?" And I said, I never intended for Friday nights to turn out this way. I was supposed to be a meeting. And I look over and he's smiling. And I'm like, what? He said, I knew it would. I just let you call it a meeting. It's because a church is going to come out of it ultimately, man. And it's so unique that I can't really put a label on it. I can't call it church. I can't call it a meeting. I can't, maybe the best word that I could use is a fellowship of like-minded believers, man.
It's Recovery Church.
100%, man. We got clean time shout outs. We all celebrate milestones together. I mean, we're like a family. We're like a community. We've got, I remember, just to give you an example of some of the things that are going on here, I'll just talk briefly about one individual. So this gentleman's name is Darren Edwards, and he's an older gentleman. And I remember our very first one-on-one session, he said, "You can go ahead and do what you want, but I'm convinced I'll die an alcoholic." And I sat up and I leaned in and I said, "Challenge accepted." This man now has, I believe, 15 months clean.
That's amazing.
He is a CDCA for New Hope Creation, and he moves into his own home that he is buying through Habitat Humanity in 2 weeks. That's what's happening around here.
That's amazing.
And we get to celebrate things like that together. But so if anyone is intrigued that's watching about Hope Recovered, the only way other than coming in person that you can get a glimpse of what goes on there is if you join our recovery page, and it's called the Recovery Community. If you send an invite, we'll accept it, and you get to see a little bit of what goes on Friday nights. There's still certain aspects and parts of it that we don't stream live because we're really big. What's going on in the church now is it's becoming very performance driven. The lighting's got to be just right. The coffee's got to be a certain temperature. The lights have to be turned down low. We've got to get pictures of people with the altar. We've got to get pictures of people worshiping. We've got to push this and push this and push this. So what we're doing at Hope Recovered is we are stripping all that away. We get rid of it. If you come to the altar at Hope Recovered and you're laying something down, we're not going to plaster your picture on Facebook or social media to help us create a following or to bring people in, because or
use it for promotion.
We strongly believe that the Holy Spirit will lead the people that's supposed to be there. The ones that are supposed to be there, they are going to come one way or another. It don't matter how far away they are, right, Higgy?
I'll be there next Friday. J-Rod and I are making the trek.
So if you join the recovery community, you'll be able to watch the live feed, and it'll kind of give you just a little glimpse of what goes on Friday nights.
Can't wait. Well, we're coming up on the hour. I want to thank you for taking the time to jump on here and take time away from your family. It's always a pleasure to speak with you. You become a really dear friend to me and confidant. You display all the qualities that I need in a friend and a brother. And I applaud you on the progress you've made in your life personally and the impact you're having in your community, man. You're making such a positive impact in an area that needs it so badly. So I can't hear you now. Damn it. Did you get a phone call? I can't hear you. Well, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. I want to thank everybody for tuning in, chiming in. I'll hit the comments after this. I love you, Cody. I will talk to you soon, okay? Can you hear me? Okay. Good night, everybody. Trying to end this.